With the WSL season over, it's time for our Team of the Season video. In this video, we break down the criteria for deserving a spot in the WSL Team of the Season and look at which players have been the most impressive. We also discuss why Chelsea don't have many players in most pundits' teams of the season despite their invincible title win, and whether any players from the bottom half of the table make the cut. This is our 24-25 WSL Team of the Season. Alright, let's get into it then. WSL Team of the Season time. We saw the ones that were done on the Sky broadcast on Sunday and thought, well, we can't do worse. So let's go ahead and do our WSL Team of the Season. We've got a lot of players to get through here, Harry. So shall we just jump into it?
Yeah, this was quite difficult because I think that, as you say, no matter what you say, everyone's going to have a different opinion. No matter who you put in your team, it's always going to be wrong because everyone has different teams and has different options. But I think I've put together a pretty decent side.
Yeah, I think there's a couple hotly contested positions. Some that for me feel very obvious, and some picks from other people that I think are utterly bizarre. But there you go. That's how this tends to work. And let's start then with the goalkeeper, Harry. And I'll let you start. Who is your goalkeeper? Who makes the WSL Team of the Season?
Now, although I think that the likes of, I think Shemik had a good season, I think Brosnan had a good season, there were only two front runners, and they're the joint winners of the Golden Glove, Hannah Hampton and Fallon Tallis-Joyce. I've gone for Tallis-Joyce. I just think that when you look at both of them, I think they're both outstanding goalkeepers. But when I think of the big moment saves, I think of Tallis-Joyce, and the way that she stepped up this season from being an unused bench goalkeeper to being Man United's number one, I think was a massive step. And a lot of people, including myself, had doubts about whether Tallis-Joyce was good enough. She's come in this season and has been miles better than I expected her to be. Absolutely phenomenal. A game changer for Man United. Part of a side who, and to be fair, for 21 games she was absolutely brilliant, and so were United. I don't know what happened in the Arsenal game. They all fell apart.
They conceded 10 in the first 20 and then 6 in their final 2.
Which really ruined Tallis-Joyce's numbers because before then they looked phenomenal. But overall, I think Tallis-Joyce has been the best goalkeeper in the league this season. I don't think there's many people that would argue against that.
No, I don't think so. I think the same debate was for me. I thought Hampton was excellent this season, but the fact Tallis-Joyce came in at a very important moment for United, where there was that doubt over whether she'd be able to replace Mary Earps, I think that was really important for me. And she's had some brilliant games this season, made some fantastic saves. They had a long run at the start of the season where they didn't concede a goal as well, so really impressive stuff. Save percentage, I think she's got the highest in the league, 83%. So yeah, really impressive stuff from Tallis-Joyce. I think she deserves all the plaudits. The only goalkeepers that made more saves, I think, were Shea Yanez, and they conceded about 100 shots a game. So, of course, she's going to make some saves. She made like 12 in the game against Man City alone. And I think Courtney Brosnan as well, who, again, would be up there, but I just don't think there's been enough clean sheets from her this season from Everton. So, yeah, my goalkeeper as well, Fallon Tallis-Joyce.
Right back then?
I'll start off right back because I think a lot of the defence for us is the same. Let's at right back. I think it's quite obvious. I'm going to go for Jade Riviere. Highest duels won amongst her positional peers this season in the league, which is really impressive. 73% dual win rate, which is 7.05 duels won per 90. And I think that was the biggest thing about Riviere this season, was it felt impossible to get past her. We saw in a lot of games where players would try and take her on, and she's so good at just standing up the player, making the challenge when necessary, and when getting that timing right. I think that's been the most impressive part of her game this season. I think the best way to sort of describe her performance is when she's not there is when you notice her the most.
Yeah.
When she's there, maybe you don't notice her because she's doing her job excellently, which means you don't really see her, which is exactly what you want really from your fullbacks, but when she's not there and you see Mannion really struggle to handle the same players that Riviere's just marked out of the game, it creates that contrast that I think holds Riviere in an even higher light because it shows just how good she is. And so I think we've seen some really impressive performances this season from Riviere. She missed the start of the campaign as well, and to sort of come back, slot straight back into this United side, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, as you say, I think she's one of the best one-on-one defenders in the world, let alone in the league this season. And the way she, as you say, massive injury problems last season, missed the start of this season. I think that was no one really expected her to come back, get back to fitness so quickly, and be as good as she has been for a player to be so on and off with injuries. But then as soon as she got a consistent period across this season, her performances were absolutely brilliant. And I think that And again, even towards the end of the season, she struggled with a couple of injuries, but still delivered even when she's been injured. So credit to her. I think she's done brilliantly to return after quite a long period out to come back in this season and play a pivotal role in that Man United defence. I think has to be in everyone's team this season, really.
Yeah, I can see an argument for Lucy Bronze, but my argument against it would be that she's not really done more than expected. She's had a fine season, but she's had some great games, but she's also had some games which weren't so good. I think Rivier's been incredibly consistent this year and exceeded those expectations. Emily Fox, another one, I think she's done fine this season, but I don't feel you can put any Arsenal defenders in when they have conceded 24 goals compared to Chelsea United, who've conceded 13 and 16. So yeah, I think the defence for me writes itself. There are some other options if you want to go a bit more outside the box, but I think the defence is quite self-explanatory. So yeah, Jade Riviere in there. At centre backs, then I'll let you take one. I'll take the other because I think again we've got the same centre back partnership.
Yeah, I first centre half I put in Natalie Bjorn. I think that Bjorn again this season, when we speak about players stepping up, when we speak about players delivering, Bjorn has done that brilliantly. Especially when you look at that Chelsea defence, as you say, people love and people will always remember Lucy Bronze and Millie Bright, the household names that prop that Chelsea backline up, but Bjorn goes under the radar because I don't think she's had some brilliant games this season, but it's the consistency for me across the campaign that puts her in my team. I think she hasn't put her foot wrong, and that Chelsea defence at times this season has put her foot wrong. Millie Bright's made errors, Lucy Bronze has made errors, Baltimore's been caught out when she has played left back very little, but still made more errors than Bjorn because Bjorn hasn't made any, and I think that.
Not in the league, at least. That's this is the criteria for this video.
Yeah, and I think that for 22 games to play at the level that Bjorn has is a massive testament to her, and she's caused a big headache for Bon Pastor going into next season with who on earth's going to start, because I think it would be very unfair to kick Bjorn out to bring Germa in because Bjorn has been at that level, but a player that I think when she came in, I wouldn't have expected this level of consistency. I wouldn't expect this high level of performance from Bjorn. But to be with Buchanan out injured, it presented an opportunity for Bjorn to be starting every single game week, and she's delivered tenfold. And I think a player that has been a massive part of why Chelsea have conceded so little goals this season.
Yeah, for me it's very close between Bright and Bjorn, and I think the reason a lot of people have put Bright is the reputation. The reason I haven't is because of the reputation problem as well. You want to go for someone who perhaps is a little more underappreciated, and I think that is Natalie Bjorn. She's been excellent this campaign. I think for me the big game that stands out for me was the Arsenal match at Stamford Bridge back in January. It was absolutely throwing it down with rain, so we couldn't really enjoy it as much, but it was a fantastic victory. And Bjorn was phenomenal in that game. She didn't let Russo have a sniff. Yeah. And that was really important. Alessia Russo this season has been phenomenal. We'll get to her later. But Natalie Bjorn kept her quiet in that game. And that, for me, was a really important and impressive performance from Bjorn.
Yeah, as you say, it was Russo's worst game of the season. But that's because Bjorn was so good. But between Bjorn and Bright, I think Bjorn's just been more consistent and has just level-headed and played at a consistent level that, to be honest, she hasn't put her foot wrong all season.
Yeah, indeed. The other centre-half then, I would argue the most underrated centre-half in the league, despite the fact there are a lot of United fans who absolutely adore her. It's, of course, Maya Le Tissier. Been absolutely phenomenal this campaign. I think when I think of the best moments from defenders, it's just Le Tissier moments. I mean, we saw it massively in the Manchester derby. City broke away. It looked like Carolyn was in. And somehow Le Tissier recovered and made a great tackle. Now, yes, Carolyn made a bit of a mess of that. She should have just driven towards goal, but ridiculously good from Le Tissier. And we've seen that all season. She's been phenomenal with the blocks, which has always been a big part of her game, getting in front of the ball. Incredibly strong, really comfortable with the ball, under her possession. I think she's been excellent this season, Le Tissier, and she's led a United backline that have been fairly formidable this campaign.
Yeah, I think that with Le Tissier, what I like about her so much is that she can do the luxury defender role, which you see a lot of players, which is the nice passes and the clean tackles and the controlled defending. But she can also do that scrappy, gritty part of the game where it's last-ditch tackles and it's, as you say there, getting back in and making a huge block to deny a goal. I love the fact she can do both sides of the game. And for me, it's why she's one of the best defenders in the league and in Europe, because she can do both sides. Too many defenders either, can only, we see a lot at the top level, the luxury defenders who will make the perfect tackle and will play that beautiful 30-yard pass, but when they need to throw themselves across goal and make a block, they won't do it. Laetitia does both, and I think as a leader and also as a player has been superb for United this season. One of the best players, in the division, and deserved more from this season. She was one of the players that deserved more. If they go on to win the FA Cup, then that, and she gets to lift the trophy at Wembley once again, I think that's a massive moment. No, she'll get to do it for the first time this season because last year it was Zellum. So I think she deserves that kind of moment because that's the season she's had. I think she'll be disappointed to not come away with any trophies if they don't get one. But overall, in the league, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, phenomenal, and it's an absolute mystery as to why she doesn't feature more for England, let alone start for the England national team. I think she's a phenomenal player, arguably our best defender, arguably the best defender in the WSL. So that one really confusing for me. Let's go to left back then, Harry. The last position where I think we've got the same player. I mean, there's some other similar players, same players coming forwards, but there's a bit more difference. Left back, I feel, is a fairly obvious one in that it should be Sondy Baltimore.
Yeah, I think there were some options, and I did, I think Gabby George again has had a good season, but I didn't just want to put the whole Man United defence in there.
Yeah, I think she's a victim of the fact that she's not been as impressive as Riviera and Laetitia and Talis Joyce.
I think that to put an underrated player in there, I think Sarah Holmgard has done very, very well at Everton this season, both offensively and defensively. Bar the red card in the Merseyside derby a couple of weeks ago, I think she's had a really, really good campaign.
Also, you can sort of cheat and you can put them both in there. You just put Holmgard and then sub them in half time.
But yeah, I think that overall they've both had really good seasons. I can't look past Sondy Baltimore though, and I think that the level of performance for a player that has... what impressed me most about Baltimore is not only has she had to adjust to a new role, but she's also had to adjust to a new league. And the fact she's done both of them in the same season and has been the predominant left back in an invincible winning side speaks absolute volumes to how good she's been this season. I thought she's had some superb games, both, again, going forwards and defensively. We knew that Baltimore would be a threat going forwards, and that's why the finishes, both in the WSL and in Europe, have been absolutely brilliant. And her running on, making those late runs at the far post, she scored loads of goals. We expected that part of her game to deliver. The big question marks were around her defensively. And I think, so often this season, in the defensive third, she's got it so right. For a natural winger to be so strong defensively, to be brilliant in the one-on-one, and to be really consistent, it's been very surprising. I didn't think she would. When I first saw Sondy Baltimore lining up at left back, I thought her attacking returns would be brilliant, but defensively Chelsea could get caught out. But we're not seeing that at all. Baltimore has been brilliant. She's been organised. The positioning's been right. That's the thing. You thought she'd get caught too high, similar to other attacking left backs in the league, but Baltimore's got that positioning superb. She's been really organised and has looked so comfortable out there. Yeah. I think that she thoroughly deserves to be in the team this season.
And to highlight a game where she was particularly impressive, again, looking at that game in November between Chelsea and Manchester City, I mentioned her performance in that game in our Invincibles video that went out yesterday or the day before, so go and check that out. But yeah, I thought she was phenomenal in that game, and it points exactly to what you're speaking about, being incredibly defensively good. She kept Man City, and Bronze as well, to be fair, they kept Man City's wingers quiet, and that was a really impressive performance. That was the time where we saw Juan Pastor have to adapt the system slightly, but we saw excellent performances across the board that day. But the fullbacks did their jobs excellently, perfectly, and that's why Chelsea were then able to have more of the possession and or able to win the ball back and then break at speed. That was really impressive. And Sondy Baltimore was excellent in that game, has been excellent all season. I think a player who, when she came in, I looked at as a bit of an odd signing. Do we need another winger? Do we need a winger who is a bit too stop-start in her running style? But she has adapted to play that left-back role really nicely, and I think she's come in and been a real asset for Chelsea.
Yeah, she's managed to bench Niamh Charles, who, to be honest, was probably the best left-back in the league last season. Niamh Charles was in this team last season, and Sondy Baltimore has come in and not replaced her at Chelsea and has played so well that, yes, they've rotated a little bit, but in the big games, Baltimore's always been preferred, and that's because of the level that she has played at this season.
Yeah, indeed. Right, let's get on to the next bit then. So we've done our back four and goalkeeper. We've gone for the same stuff so far. That's not fun for YouTube, though. So, slight formation changes, Harry. What are you going for?
See, I've done the really silly thing that everyone likes to do and just put loads of attackers on the pitch. So I'm technically playing a 4-2-4.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't like this. I think I've seen lots of people doing their teams of the season. I think if you're putting a proper team of the season, players have got to be in positions. It's got to make sense tactically.
They're in positions. It's just a very
Yeah,
aggressive
but my
team.
team will beat yours.
How do you know that? We might just outscore you.
You've got 4 strikers.
Exactly, and they're really good forwards.
Well, I've gone for a 4-3-3, so I've got a little more balance in my team. Defensive midfield, then. The first player that I've got that you don't have, Yui Hasegawa. Firstly, why don't you have Yui Hasegawa?
Because I'll be honest, I did initially look to be playing a 4-2-3-1 or something that it did involve Hasegawa, and then I had a look and I looked at some of the forwards that I'll get onto later, and I thought they have to be in the team. And then when I looked at my midfielders, Hasegawa was the one that I had to get rid of, which feels really harsh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was a really difficult one. To take Yui Hasegawa out of a team of the season is probably a really controversial thing to do. But I like attackers. I want to go score loads of goals.
Fair enough. I think a lot of people think the same way. I think as well, given the fact City have had a huge drop-off in performance, people will undervalue Hasegawa's contribution just naturally. But I don't think a single loss this season can be attributed to Hasegawa, and that's a huge compliment to how consistent she's been, even while City have been pretty poor. I think she's still been the cog that makes that team tick. I think she's still been a really solid defensive midfielder. She keeps the ball ticking over. She's a very good interceptor, tackler. She's just a phenomenal footballer, Yui Hasegawa, and she's a victim of her own success in the sense that she's just been so consistent for so long now, and no aspect of her game has changed massively, that people just forget just how good she is. But she's an excellent player, phenomenal player, easily the best defensive midfielder in the world right now. And yeah, I think she's been phenomenal this campaign. She's just been the victim of the fact that City haven't been particularly good. She does the stuff you don't tend to notice unless you're an analyst, unless you're constantly watching Manchester City games. I don't think you really notice how brilliant she is. But yeah, phenomenal campaign once again from Yui Hasegawa, and I think deservedly in my team this season.
Yeah, I think, even though I haven't put in my team, I think her alongside a couple City players are victims of the recency bias as well that you have when you do see it. Because when you do a team this season, a lot of people will subconsciously focus on 2025 and focus on the most recent games, but you forget before Christmas, before December, November time, Man City was still playing very, very well. They were still
in the title race.
Exactly. They were so people forget that obviously that still counts as a season. For those few months, Hasegawa was brilliant. There were other players in there who were absolutely phenomenal, and I have got a City player in there because I do think that it's important to recognise that for half a year, City were really good.
Yeah.
Then they rocked up the Christmas and just crumbled.
Well, they had a lot of injuries. I think to add to that, and I know it's out of position, so forgive me for that, but I was tempted to have Lauren Hemp in here. Because despite not playing between December and April, she still had the most assists this season.
It's incredible.
In the WSL. But yeah, it's a frankly ridiculous achievement. I think for me, ultimately, the fact she didn't play in half the season makes it difficult to include her in team of the season. But I mean, if you're going just off the numbers, she probably should be in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, City really unfortunate with the injuries this season. I think they've suffered as a consequence. I mean, Khadija Short still finished top goal scorer. She missed most of the second half of the season.
It's incredible.
But again, it's difficult to put her in because she missed half of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, let's move on then to our other midfielders. I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'm going to start. So I've got a pivot here, midfield 2, that is pretty aggressive, but never mind. They're going to really work. First of all, Mariona Caldente. This one is the most obvious. She's the player of the season for a reason. She's come into the WSL and has been absolutely brilliant. Whether she's played on the left, whether she's played in the 10, whether she's played in the deeper role, in the pivot. She's been phenomenal and has delivered so many good performances this season. And again, it is represented in numbers. She is up there, for goal contributions. But it's the stuff that doesn't directly lead to goals that I love about Caldente. She is always the one to get the pre-assist. She's always involved in the build-up play. She'll create the chance, even if she isn't the one who then gets credited with the assist at the end. Just been absolutely brilliant. A player that, on a football pitch and in an Arsenal shirt this season, has oozed class every time she touches the ball. And yes, they've struggled recently, but that's not really down to her. That's down to where she's playing and the pivot that just doesn't work for Arsenal. But Caldente has delivered incredibly this season, and I know she did play for Barcelona and in one of the best teams in the world and was brilliant, but it is still a new division. You still have to make that adjustment. and she's looked brilliant. If anything, she's got better, which I didn't think was really possible.
Well, when you raise the standard of the opponent you're playing against every week, you do tend to become a better player. I think she's been excellent this season. As you say, she's gone from being a cog in the Barcelona team to being the cog
Yeah.
in this Arsenal team. She makes everything work. She's a fantastic creator. She's a very apt goal scorer as well. I think a phenomenal player. Deservedly got Wsl Player of the Season at the end of season awards. So, yeah, she's in my team as well. I think that goes without saying. In my midfield three, alongside a player I think you've also got in there, Erin Cuthbert. Again, another player who massively goes under the radar. Wasn't even nominated for Wsl Player of the Season. And I think it's quite an obvious explanation in the sense that she just, similar to Hatsugawa, her contribution just does go under the radar a little bit. I mean, she still provides goals at crucial moments, which is the difference. 4 goals a season for Erin Cuthbert. I think the most memorable one was that goal against Manchester City that she scored. It was the third in the, I don't know, what would you call it? Saga. I was trying to think what trilogy is 4 ways, but I can't remember. The saga between Chelsea and Manchester City is a third game in that, and she notched the winner for Chelsea, which was a potentially season-defining moment. If they slip up there, it could have become very squeaky towards the end of this campaign, but it was players like her who stepped up in those big moments and really made the difference. So, yeah, phenomenal season. Dual win percentage, unsurprisingly, was one of the highest in the league. 83 duels won this season, 30 tackles won. Again, ranks right at the top of the league for position in those statistics, and 5.17 tackles and interceptions per 90. She gets everywhere. She's a fantastic player, Erin Cuthbert, and deserves the plaudits.
Yeah, again, it's consistency from Cuthbert that we've mentioned with a couple players now, that it goes under the radar, but it is such a high level. She's an absolute warrior that you don't see another player who has the same fight and the same grit. But Cuthbert does. I think what I like about Cuthbert's that grit and that determination and that aggression is that she goes over the line a couple times, but it never goes over the line in terms of the antics and stuff. She might put in a rough tackle and might get it wrong, but there's never any afters or handbags going on. It's a bad tackle, but she gets on with it rather than trying to get up and square up to people. And that's what I like, is that even when she does go over the line, which is very rare, she doesn't then go and make a big thing about it. But it is that determination that is so solid in that midfield, which I think that as a lot of midfields lack, and it's one thing that you see up and down the division. Katrina Gorey's another one who just gets stuck in, does the dirty work that no one else wants to do, but it's a massive factor of football.
Gorey's one who I think definitely an honourable mention for these midfield positions. I think someone who has been phenomenal for West Ham this season, a large part of why they've seen this resurgence in the second half of the season. I think the most obvious way to put it is when you go on to FootMob and you look at a West Ham result where they've been tanked and everyone around her's on a red rating and she's still got a green rating. That for me, and I know obviously people go, oh, you can't judge performance based on FootMob ratings. I'm not. I'm just saying, you look at that, it shows she is ticking. She's the player that makes that team work, makes that team tick. She's been excellent this season. So, yeah, harsh to not include her, but it's difficult when you've got so many strong candidates for midfield. I mean, players like Grace Clinton, if it was based off the first half of the season, would be in here. If it was the second half of the season, maybe Ella Toone would be in here. Probably not done quite enough, but there's definitely other options. But I would agree that Calante Cuthbert are your nailed ones for me.
Yeah, I also put Mia Zawa as an honourable mention because I think that she's been brilliant tactically for United this season, but Calante and Cuthbert have just been that little bit better.
Yeah, I think it was. It's difficult as well because you don't want to include too many players from the same club, and United's defence deserves so much respect. So, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to the front line. You've got a front four. I've got a front three. So, where do we want to start here? Should we start on the right wing?
Yes. Okay.
You can go first then.
Okay. I've gone, and again, this is when I spoke about earlier about wanting to make sure that recency bias didn't kick in and that players got what they were deserved. I've put in Mary Fowler. Because, yes, she has missed the last 5 games of the season, only featured in 17 matches this season. But in those 17 matches, she notched up 13 goal contributions. That is absolutely brilliant from Fowler. And yes, City have struggled over the turn of the year. But I think what I loved about what we saw from Fowler was that at the start of the season, she was contributing nicely. She was ticking over pretty decently and linking up with Hemp and Shaw. But then when those guys went and got injured, Fowler stepped up. And she didn't just step up on that right-hand side. She had to play across. She played in numerous positions across that front three. So many different roles, and she still delivered. She was still the one making the difference. She took the role of penalties and was scoring them as well. And I think the way that she stepped up to be that talisman for Man City was incredible.
Yeah.
The way she led them to some brilliant results. It was even in their bad games, she was the one who scored in the loss against Everton. She was the one who got 2 assists in the loss against Man United at the Etihad. Even when City were playing badly, Fowler was still playing well. Individually, she was still putting on a really, really good performance. And I think that is something that is mighty impressive. You mentioned it with Gorey. It's even more impressive when a player plays well when their team are really struggling, because it still shows that they're at the top of their game. It still shows that they're playing well and they're not the reason their side is struggling. I felt for Fowler this season, because if Shaw and Hemp had stayed fit, I think her numbers... It's a weird one, but because, yes, she probably wouldn't have been relied on as much, but her numbers would have been higher, because the amount of assists she'd have got would have skyrocketed, and that front three were linking up perfectly to start the year. But overall, to put up 13 goal contributions in 17 games, Fowler had to be in my team.
I think that last point, that does go both ways. I think she did benefit in a sense from them being injured, because she became the focal point. Also, she had the record. She broke the record as well for the most consecutive WSL games with a goal contribution. I think that was 7 in the end that she got to. Really impressive run, and I think that's testament to the hard work she's put in this season. A really strong campaign. Definitely someone I consider in this role. My right winger, though, just for the way she's tormented every left back in the league this season, has to be Olivia Smith. Just a phenomenal talent. Someone who came in this season from Sporting, came into Liverpool for decent money. I think a lot of people looked at that transfer as a bit of a risk from Liverpool. Someone who hadn't played in the WSL before, and that was sort of all of their budget on one player. But I think she's definitely shown that she's worth that probably 5 times over. She's been phenomenal this campaign, Olivia Smith. Yeah, I've run out of superlatives to use this campaign. We've spoken about her so much because she just performs every single week to the highest level. She's given so many of the top fullbacks in this league a difficult time. I would say something Baltimore, that was obviously in the FA Cup, but still absolutely tore her apart in that semi-final. I saw, McCabe also in the FA Cup, I think. No, that was in the league actually, where she just dribbled past her like she wasn't even there. And we've seen that so many times from Smith this season. She's made life so difficult for some of the league's best fullbacks. Yeah. So I think she deserves huge credit for that. And just clearly a top talent. And if we're discussing, signing of the season type stuff, for me it's between her, Baltimore, and Caldente, and that is incredible company to keep at this young age. So very talented player. Liverpool already fending off bids. And you think it's going to be a long time to keep her, but she's been absolutely excellent this campaign.
Yeah, she's done very well. And again, I think it was close between her and Fowler, but I went with Fowler just purely on the numbers. But as you say, Smith has tormented Chelsea, Arsenal, United, City. She contributed against all 4 of those. Yes, again, Chelsea wasn't in the league, but still, to play so well against the best sides in the league and some of the best sides in the world, it is a massive credit to her ability and how well she did this season. So yeah, I can understand why she'd be in people's teams.
And to perform that well in a side that weren't right at the sharp end, who weren't competing for Champions League football, and to be as attacking minded, as strong in attacking areas, even while Matt Beard was playing very defensive football, I think that's really impressive from her. So yeah, deserves huge plaudits for that. You've got 2 strikers then. I think we match on one of them. So give me a striker that I haven't included.
Your striker you haven't included. I've gone for... So one of my strikers, Elizabeth Turland. And I think that, again, a lot of people will sleep on Turland because there is that the main number 9 that everyone's got in their sides. But I did initially. I had one up front and I hadn't put Turland in there. But then when you look at it, Turland, joint most goals and assists this season with 15. 15 contributions in 22 games is really, really strong. The way that she's stepped up from Brighton to United has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, by the way, it makes Fowler's numbers look even more, incredible. The fact she was only 2 contributions off Turland, but didn't play played 5 less games. But for Turland, I think she's been absolutely brilliant. And United, I think that they've got their defensive plaudits this season, and rightfully so, because I do think at the start they were a little bit slow to get going, and I think Turland included. I don't think she really hit the ground running at the start of the campaign, but as they built on into the season, she put up some really important goals and scored in some big moments. And she really started to click once United worked out what they were doing in attacking areas. She benefited massively once United realised they couldn't play Toon and Clinton in the attacking four, and then she got more chances, and because of the quality she's got, she went and took those chances, and the link-up play that she's had with Bizet and Galton and Toon and Clinton has been absolutely brilliant, and I think that she's contributed massively to that United front line, and is part of the reason. I think it's important to highlight her and her attacking contributions in a season where United have been applauded for their defensive efforts. I think it's important to highlight how good Turland has been going forwards this season.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. She's been phenomenal this campaign, definitely in there. But there's such a high concentration of quality strikers in the WSL. I didn't even have her in my honourable mentions, despite her record this season, because I think you've got Khadija Shaw, who, if it wasn't for the injury, would have won the Golden Boot by an absolute canter this season.
Yeah.
13 goals, and she missed half the season. Shakira Martinez joined in January, didn't play her first game until February. She notched up 10 goals. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous record in the end of this season. So she's right up there. Agbeva Jones, another one, 9 goals for Chelsea this season. In a season where every other forward for Chelsea spent some time on the sidelines, she was the consistent figure. And yeah, I think she had help from Carnreed in the first half of the season. She had a great first 5 games, and Wrighton in the second half of the season started to come to life. Macario at times of the season, but I don't think any of them have been consistent. Aguilera Jones, through it all, has been the most consistent forward, consistently fit and consistently firing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's lots of options in there. And the obvious striker, which I think we've both gone for, top goal scorer this season, plays for Arsenal, is of course Alessia Russo. But it's not just the quantitative figures metrics that have impressed me so much about Russo's game this season. It's the qualitative aspects. We've seen a much more confident and much more mature Alessia Russo. We've seen a player who is much better at receiving the ball with her back to goal, bringing others into the game, really good at timing those runs into the box, meeting in the air. I think we've seen her ability in the air, her heading game go up so much this season. And I think she's benefited from obviously Chloe Kelly coming in and the crosser she puts in and Cal Dente as well. But she's been absolutely excellent this season, Russo. Huge catalogue of different goals, different shot types, different techniques. And I think we're seeing the blossoming season of a real top forward. We've seen seasons now where she's been good, but I think now we're seeing her bring other aspects into her game. We're seeing her look more confident. I think going into the Euros this summer, if we get that same Alessia Russo, that's a really frightening prospect.
Yeah, I think as an all-round striker, she's up there as one of the very best in the world. Or even in Europe especially, when you think best finisher, best in the air, you look at the likes of Shaw, you look at Payor, Ramirez in the air, absolutely brilliant. But as an all-round striker, doing all of the attributes that she's developed this season have made her a very complete forward, and I think that is part of the reason why she has been so good this season. And I think in front of goal she's improved massively. But as you say, it's like not even the one-on-ones; it's the rogue shots that are going in. It's not the unconventional efforts that she's managing to find the back of the net with, whether it's back heels or the goal against Brighton where she picks up on the byline, runs round, and then just cuts it into the left corner. It was inventive, and that's what I like about Russo. She's been inventive this season. She's come up with different things. It's not was a couple of years ago. She was and last season a little bit. She was very much a striker who, if you put her through on goal, she'll slot it past the goalkeeper. But apart from that, does she impact the game? Not necessarily, but this season she's come on leaps and bounds and has really developed, and it is involved in everything Arsenal do in that build-up phase. She's helping create the chances, but then she's also the one getting on the end of them and putting them in the back of the net. And yeah, again, has been benefited massively by the arrivals of Kelly and Caldente, by the uptake in form from Caitlin Ford. Frida Mann at the start of the season as well was playing really well, so I do think she's benefited from Arsenal being better, but the improvement we've seen from Russo to come in this season and to go and win the Golden Boot has been absolutely brilliant, especially in 2025. Her form has just been absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, indeed. Phenomenal player. Let's get to left wing then. I was tempted to put Cal Dente here at left wing to be able to play your stupid 4-2-4, but I put Cal Dente in midfield. And actually, I think there's a really obvious left winger who a lot of people will sleep on this season. We've both gone for the West Ham winger, the French player, Viviane Assaye. Do you want to talk about her, Harry?
Yeah, I think she's been brilliant this season. And again, we speak about players that go under the radar. We speak about players who shine in teams that aren't performing. And I think the crucial thing with Assaye, so she's she's joint with Turland for the most goal contributions this season with 15, which is brilliant, especially when you consider that she's playing for West Ham. And yes, West Ham looked better in 2025, but at the start of the year, they were in real trouble, and Asai was still delivering, and that is why I put Asai in here, because she has scored goals and she's been brilliant when West Ham are playing well, but she's still found the back of the net when West Ham are struggling, and that has been the massive thing for me. I think she's linked up brilliantly with Martinez and Ueki in that front line, but overall this season to be so consistent in a West Ham side that have been up, down, up, down, up, down, and haven't really delivered, across a period, I think the fact that Sai has still been there, putting up the numbers, delivering chances, scoring goals herself, has been very, very impressive. Her double against Leicester was superb. Her free kick was absolutely excellent. And again, I think she's a victim of the fact that she scored that on the last day, because she probably would have won goal of the season if she'd scored that earlier in the campaign.
Yeah.
But they'd
Well,
already
the
done
Leicester
the
game was
nominations.
fun because they lost 4-2, but Vivian Assange just shooting from everywhere.
Yeah, she's wanted to score loads of goals, and that is what I love about Sai, is that she takes those gambles, she takes those risks. She'll pull the trigger from 20 yards to try and get it in the goal. She'll try and play that 30-yard crossfield pass to get a teammate through on goal, and that's what I like about Sai. She takes those risks, and yes, sometimes it doesn't come off, but the way she's been playing, the majority of those efforts have gone in. The majority of the chances she's created have found the back of the net because she's playing at such a high level. So yeah, I think underrated this season, had to be in my team.
Yeah, phenomenal campaign, as you say, right up there for goal contributions. I think someone who, as you say, has been phenomenal in terms of linking up as well with Martinez. I think she's become much better since West Ham become better, obviously. But yeah, I think she scores goals in the games West Ham need the goals.
Yeah.
She's only notched one contribution this season against top 4 teams, but she's been phenomenal in against the other sides. I mean, even in the Crystal Palace game, she probably could have got a lot more. Only a goal and assist in the 7-1 demolition.
Yeah.
She could have ended up with a hat-trick, or a hat-trick of both goals and assists. But yeah, a much more modest return than perhaps you'd expect. But she's been phenomenal this campaign. Really consistent, and as you say, a real talismanic figure in this West Ham team. I think if they can hold on to her and Martinez, they're in a really good position. I do think they may lose Shakira Martinez, but they've done really well this season, West Ham, and their resurgence in the second half of the season, obviously a lot of it goes down to Martinez, but a fair bit goes down and can be attributed to Vivian Asai as well.
Yeah, again, it's just also the same that we said with Russo. The improvement from Asai this season is brilliant. She has been that leader for West Ham. When they've scored goals, she's been the one scoring them, but the increase from her numbers last season to this season has been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, again, massive improvement, deservedly in team of the season.
Indeed. Shall we summarise our teams?
Sure.
Then? Harry, you can go first.
Okay, well, obviously, as you know, I'm playing my incredibly fun 4-2-4. In goal, Fallon Joyce. Back four of Riviere, Bjorn, Letitia, and Sondi Baltimore. In the midfield pivot that definitely wouldn't function on a football pitch, but it's Calente and Erin Cuthbert. And then it's a front four of Mary Fowler on the right, Vivian Asai on the left, and then a front partnership of Turland and Russo, which again, they're both single player number 9s. Probably wouldn't work, but it would be really fun.
Yeah, fair enough. My team, much more sensible 4-3-3. In goal, Tyler Joyce, same back four, Riviere, Bjorn, Letitia, and Baltimore. Midfield three of Hasegawa, Cuthbert, and Calente, and a front line of Asai, Russo, and Olivia Smith. So there we go. Let us know which team you think would win in the comments down below. I'm very intrigued as to whether you think Erin Cuthbert and Mariona Calente can stop Erin Cuthbert and Mariona Calente. That would be a great midfield battle. So do get involved in the comments down below. Other than that, we'll be back on Friday to preview the Women's FA Cup final. Exciting times. And obviously, cup finals over the next 2 weekends. Looking forward to them both. Other than that, though, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.